Good morning, Guy. How are you doing?
How you doing?
Well, we chatted a little bit about the layout of Tela blog.
Yes.
So, I thought we'd jump on a call. Let me share my screen. Cool. So, um, just to set the stage, what was on your mind as you were looking at this?
So I remember what we chatted about was that I feel there's a sort of dissonance if you walked into the blog that you wouldn't find in other blogs, which is you have the more corporate or technical angle of Teleblog, which is about the app, it's about the network, it's about partnerships, and then there's the more, let's say, explorative angle of opinion pieces, research, what we call viewpoint. And it seems to me, especially as on the front page, that someone coming in wouldn't know where to start, wouldn't know what they're looking at. I mentioned that isn't really much of a problem in everyday use because we mostly use it as a link repository. We just link to our articles on there. We link to and fro, and it gives people, even as someone who's trying to recruit people for the blog, it's attractive to say I can publish your work somewhere.
Mm.
So that isn't that big of an issue, but it's something that was on my mind. It's something that got to the point I even said, it feels like there should be two different types, two different columns.
So, some division of the blog into two big pieces.
I've been playing with that idea.
Have you seen another blog that would look a little bit like what you have in mind?
The closest I've gotten to that idea is there's another blog that what they do is they have a published magazine
Mm.
and they have a digital blog. I can give you the name if you want. It's called The
Yeah,
Lamp Magazine.
the Lamp magazine. Okay.
There you are. And so they have articles
Mm.
and then they have blog posts.
Hmm.
And they're both available on the page, except the articles are behind a paywall because they're issue based.
Hmm.
So every quarter, I think it
Hmm.
is, they have a new issue, and the blog runs concurrent to that,
Hmm.
and doesn't have such a set schedule. So every quarter, there's a whole new bunch of articles that are behind a paywall, some that you can read for free,
Hmm.
and then the blog posts are accessible to all.
Interesting.
So I don't. That isn't exactly what I'd like to see because this is a literary journal. This is about
Hmm.
book reviews and opinion pieces exclusively. And Teleblog has the advantage of also being a corporate outlet
Hmm.
or a network outlet. I'd like more.
Yeah.
I like the idea. This is something I actually came across this morning. I like the idea that in the publication is the bulletin board of a network.
Hmm.
That it's the common reference point, and it's the main point of intra-communication. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to make something known to the network, it's better if I make a post about it and then link to it.
Yeah.
Me just sending a message
Mm.
to everyone.
Yeah. There's a public reference point.
Yes.
Okay. So here what we've got are there's one article type as opposed to the two,
Yes.
and we have tags which divide those articles into categories.
Mhm.
So here we have home issues. So we don't have articles, we have issues. And then we have blog, and then we have articles, and we have issues, and we have articles. Hmm.
So the
So,
idea I mentioned to you, um,
yeah.
parallel to this, was the idea of making an issue, actually.
Oh, I see.
Of making an issue, not necessarily for Teleblog, but
Hmm.
aside from that, something that I could invite people to participate in. Say, invite
Hmm.
30,
That's
40
interesting.
people,
Yeah.
researchers, academics, authors, people that I'm aware of that would be interested in publishing their work, and say, here is the topic, write
Hmm.
something about it,
Mm-hmm.
I will edit them together into an issue, so they're somehow related, or I'll make forewords or introductions to the pieces
Mm.
to contextualize them, and we'll publish it as an issue, as a digital issue, and maybe even as a physical issue for those involved,
So
if
this
they
would
want.
be a magazine or a
And
journal.
yes, and I think or journal. My interest in here would be it may be more attractive as a to have a project based approach to publishing
Mm.
than a concur like um,
Yeah, I
a
see.
recurring at any point we can publish.
Mm.
I mean that from an author's perspective.
Hmm.
Uh, it's I'm not sure. I have to experiment with it. The most attractive thing about it wouldn't actually be the having a journal or magazine. It
Mm.
would be that with that as a reference point, we can actually organize events and we can organize talks.
Okay. So an issue would become a larger reference point with perhaps an attached event.
I think it's also an opportunity because I've had authors actually ask,
Mm.
"What would you like me to write about?"
Mm.
And I don't often have an answer for that because I sort of because it's published on Teleblog, there's an inherent culture that comes with it.
Mm.
Like I assume authors would read some of what they're going to be published next to,
Ideally.
see because they're going to have because they're going to have a Tela link attached to their
Mm.
name to
Yep.
understand what it is. That's been my experience. They have understood it and they have liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of have assumed, maybe naively, that
Mm.
that will um, align with their work somewhat. Not that they'll make direct reference to it, but it will be in the same vein of a common culture, what you would call a company culture, but a network culture.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's a good point.
it's the
Culture.
issue, the advantage of an issue would be this is an abstract or less abstract topic I want us to talk about from whatever angle is your expertise.
Okay,
So
so
actually, the first issue, the one I thought of, would be what is to be done.
okay. E.g.
And if you'd have people that are technical experts or
Yes, I
academics
see.
or authors, they could write from it from their perspective.
So the advantage of the single article approach is you never need to worry about marshalling larger amounts of work. You can just pick something and get it done, which is I found very helpful. But I can see the point of an issue. What what is your reaction to the idea of an issues tab on Teleblog? And somehow we get the underlying platform, which is Ghost. I don't know how to do this, and maybe it's not possible. Maybe we'd have to build it, or someone would have to support an issue thing, which would be a collection of articles.
I mean, that would be what I would like it to look like. Yes, but but at the same time, I'm happy with the at the start of an article you have a foreword that says this article is
Mm.
the 2024 issue of articles titled blank.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so
I'm happy
so
with that, and you can link to them, and you can see
yeah,
link the index of all articles, and there can be an
okay,
article in itself that is just it is like the
the index.
chapters at the
Yeah.
start of a book that just links to every article.
Okay, so you could have a header article for an issue.
Yes.
Uh, an issue is a collection of articles. A header article for an issue that links to all of them. A foreword or heading for an article in the issue that links to the header. What would you call a header article? A
Indexed
yeah, I guess index article. What do you call the part of a book which contains chapter headings? Contents.
contents. There you are.
Yeah,
Contents article.
contents article. To the contents article and to the immediate previous and next
I like that.
articles. That is a cheap fix, which I like. It doesn't involve development.
And I think actually you could make uh the through line by just having the same feature image for each article. Say.
Yes. Use the same feature image for each article. And then if you want, you can have article-specific images within the article.
Yes, I
That's
think
fine.
so. Maybe at the end of the article you add an
Mm.
article specific
Hmm.
image. Uh,
Interesting.
and I think what you would have then is you'd have an
Hmm.
issues tab, like you'd have
Mm.
an issues tag, sorry, an issues
Ah,
tag with
yes.
just the content articles.
Yes.
And so you'd have, content article for issue 1, or just call it issue 1, what is to be
Yes.
done, issue 2, X, and they each have a different image, so they're visually distinct.
Yes, that's cool.
I think that would be very good.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I like this. And so something I think a lot about, and this is related, is what is the fundamental unit of something? So I thought about blogs for a long time, and I looked at different styles, and I eventually concluded the fundamental unit was the article. And so as long as you have the fundamental unit supported, you can basically build anything you want afterwards, like issues, which I hadn't thought of. The My hesitation originally when I was thinking about what you wrote was that if you start having two fundamental units, you life gets hard later.
No, I honestly think issue thing has two primary advantage.
Hmm.
One is from the creation standpoint;
Hmm.
it channels creativity,
Okay.
and the second benefit is the marketing one. You can market it as an issue, you can market it as a project, and you can, as I said earlier, market parallel events to it.
Hmm.
Like I think I see what can I say? I can see it being a lot more attractive to say, let's invite a guest speaker
Hmm.
to a conference organized around our latest issue. What is to be done? And we invite, and that's an invitation that people could read and
Hmm.
seriously consider. Whereas
Okay.
a conference that's just the network is meeting together, not that's a minor
Sure.
event, but an outsider might not find that attractive.
Mm. Yeah, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, actually, like
Mm.
my point there in highlighting the advantages is that there is no fundamental new unit. It is an
Hmm.
organizing and a marketing
Yeah,
strategy.
I agree. I like it. As for the printing issue, there are print on demand services. Perhaps they allow like design and configuration ahead of time.
Very possible.
So,
I have
so
some experience personally in
mhm.
layout design for magazines, so I can look into that, but it's probably um, cheaper to outsource it, just
Yeah.
time wise. Uh, the printing issue is more of a I can understand why an author might want to have their work in print, especially
Hmm.
if it's a long term project.
Hmm.
Um, it's an optional edition. I don't see it
Hmm.
as a major selling point.
No,
Um,
it'd be fun.
it would be fun. It would be fun, and that's actually a major benefit if it's fun for the people involved.
So, looking at the blog, I think about priority of tabs a lot. So, home has to go at the beginning. Tela would seem to be the point of Tela blog, like what is the actual app.
Yes,
I actually decided that partners might become the most important after that
I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair conclusion.
because we may end up adding, I don't know, however many indefinitely. And that might be the primary value. So this is what I was thinking. You have the home by default, then you have Tela, which is the app, and then you have the partners. And what's in my mind is the primary value of Tela may be to contact the people on this list, and that's it. And there
I
will never
understand
be
that's a
anything
possibility.
else.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. The network is activity. Viewpoint is less than network because it's more optional.
Yeah.
Consulting perhaps should go ahead of viewpoint. Where should issues go off the top of your head? It should probably go before viewpoint.
Yeah, I think so. I think to an extent issues replace viewpoint, but
Okay.
not completely, because as we said before we started recording, flexibility is actually a very valuable strategy. So we should have the flexibility to just publish something without being restricted by issues. But issues as a project and as a marketing tool is more powerful than viewpoint.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think it's more powerful than network?
It depends what network contains.
I think, to my mind, network is just everything that people do who are members of the network.
Okay, let me
So
think about that. Well,
I
then
think
I
that
suppose
might be more important.
I think so, because it really that the question just becomes, what is Teleblog about?
Yeah,
Because if it's primarily a common reference point for the network, then
yeah,
network should go above issues.
I agree. Okay, so let's say issues tab, and this is actually not too difficult to start building. Issues tab, oh, I wrote it earlier. Issues tab goes after network, before viewpoint, and actually I might move. Do you think consulting should go ahead of viewpoint? On the other hand, viewpoint is more interesting to people, and consulting and earn go nicely together.
I think that's fine then. I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's a
So
fair logic, in the sense that if someone looks past those two consulting,
yeah,
it's intriguing enough for them to click on it. And if they've
yeah.
come to Teleblog for the consulting feature itself,
Hmm.
it's right in the center of the page.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, cool. I'm pretty happy with all of that. Is there anything else that you had in mind?
Hmm. Well, just it's a side note about the network tab specifically.
Hmm.
It's that I like the idea of it being a common reference point for the network.
Hmm.
I think that it may be my job to establish a protocol for it, in
Sure.
the sense of not something that's restricted, but something that's actually inviting for the
Ah,
members of the network to go like,
okay.
okay, we'd like to see more on the network tab.
Yeah, okay.
See what I
Network
mean?
tab. Yeah.
Like, say, I just attended this conference that I presented at.
Yes.
I graduated a few months ago. Is that something that should go on the network tag? I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think so.
Well, then
It,
maybe.
yeah, it's
So then,
interesting.
and the point being, just this morning, I encountered this researcher that was studying 19th century newspapers.
Hmm.
And 19th century newspapers were very much a community affair, in
Hmm.
the sense that one of the most important aspects of the newspaper was publishing letters.
Oh.
So people would send letters to the newspaper to be published so that the whole town could read them. So the example that was given
It's
is
a
actually
blog
fascinating.
post.
Someone would go on a holiday and send a letter to the newspaper going, I'm away between this and this time. If I don't come back, send someone to find me. That was at least my reading of it. But it could simply
Yeah.
just be like, this is what's happening in my life.
It was
And
the
so
Facebook page.
yes, I like the idea
Yeah.
that there can be a publication that is specifically network based.
Yeah.
It's a feed essentially of the network that is
Hmm.
curated and
Mm-hmm.
isn't full of spam.
Yes. Okay, so this is I like that.
I hadn't thought of it of being like the Facebook. Yes.
Curated feed of activity of the network members. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So essentially, it should be the sort of events you wouldn't want to the network to know, or you'd want to know of other network members.
Yes.
In a sense, that's also elevating. It should
Yeah.
motivate and inspire.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. I think that's a good place to end on, and this stuff is definitely a mini article, so that's cool.
Excellent.
Well, cool. Let's wrap it up here.
Excellent. Sounds good.